Welcome to the Moffitt Method Podcast, where longtime strength and conditioning coach Tommy Moffitt explores everything from the art of coaching, improving performance, sports nutrition, and mental training. Now, welcome your host, Coach Tommy Moffitt.
Welcome to the podcast, Coach Flint. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Coach. Appreciate you, man. Can't wait to talk to you, chat it up.
Yeah, I'm glad you're on here. I've been looking forward to doing this, and I know we're going to have a great time. So we're going to start right off with questions here. So can you share with our listeners how you got started and who were some of your early mentors?
Yeah, so starting out, obviously, probably like a little bit of most guys in this business, playing sports growing up. I was very active. I was just sharing the stories about, I'm the oldest one on my staff. It's kind of crazy, but back in my day, used to just get out and I was active. I was never home ever, just playing sports. I didn't get too much into lifting at a young age, but I liked to be active. And as I got older, fell in love with, football in particular, went to college, had no desire to play college football. Went to Central Michigan University, was on some scholarships for academics, just had, but stayed at home, literally to take care of my mom. She was there by herself with my little brother, and kind of just stayed there with her. Didn't have intentions of playing college football. Had some D2, D3 offers. I was a good high school, in Michigan high school football player, all state and all that. And just try hard, wanted to do well, running back. And but after the first year, my freshman year in college, I was missing something, and I just knew that I had to fill that void with sport. And I mean, I literally, Coach, this is 2002 maybe. There was a little piece of paper outside the football office. Hey, we have an open tryout, walk-on tryout, sign up. And so I signed up. Obviously, this is when Coach Mike DeBoer was the head coach at Central Michigan University, and me and three other walk-ons made it. And I was the only one that made it through the spring. And it had literally nothing to do with my skill level. I just I was one of those guys that, true walk-on players. And then I got exposed to lifting weights, and in high school we did it here and there. We had a little gym in the basement, but it wasn't anything much. I liked to train, but didn't have any idea, obviously. My first strength coach in college, Greg Hallberg, was more of a track guy, but he was a great exposure. And then once Coach Brian Kelly obviously came in, and my second year of college football, he brought along Paul Longo, who was my head strength coach, following that. And I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with lifting weights and training and all of it. And obviously stayed on the team, earned a scholarship my last year. Once again, had nothing to do with playing. I always tell recruits and guys that and my guys, the players here, that I practiced for Coach Kelly. I didn't play for him. It's just a recurring joke. But I got done literally as I was finishing my last year of eligibility playing. Coach Longo said, "Hey, you're going to stay on and be my assistant." I'm like, all right, I had no degree in exercise science and as a teaching degree. I thought I was going to stay in my hometown for my whole life. I was dating my now wife at the time. We were at high school together. We've been together since then. And Greg Forrest, who was the running back coach, said, "Yeah, you're going to help me out in the running back room during the day, then do the weight room thing." And anyways, graduated, and literally the day after, I had an assistant position with Coach Longo.
Wow.
And so drove down. At that time was Cincinnati. So I stayed on as kind of like a student assistant at Central Michigan University through that last season we had, 2006. And the day I graduated from Central Michigan, I drove down to Cincinnati, and I was Coach Longo's lone assistant. So it was just me and him for the first few years of my career. And
oh, really? Just two of you in the weight room?
Two of us at all 3 years at the University of Cincinnati.
Wow.
It was just me and him. I honestly, it worked. I mean, I don't know how we just did it. We had a couple helpers here and there, but he was my main driver in really everything I do. Everything I think about and conceptualize, it's formulated from him, his concepts, and just his thoughts and mindset. But I have, a lot of the guys. Dave Andrews was there at the time. Dave Andrews, who was most recently at Iowa State, is at University of Pittsburgh. He was at University of Cincinnati as the basketball strength coach at the time, and me and him got very close. We're very close, and I got a little bit of a overlap with Aaron Wellman when he was at Notre Dame with us, in between stints, his Michigan stint and his New York Giants stint. So those are some of my main influences. I mean, obviously, I honestly looked at you, man, and how you coached and how, weightlifting drove a lot of your programming from afar. I mean, we've never talked before I came down to Baton Rouge, but some of the things that you did, and I know your programming and how you ran your room, I look towards it. And that's, but Coach Longo is truly my main mentor, if you will, that I driven me into this career path.
Yeah. And, he's got a great reputation. And one of the things that I always did, when I thought about hiring coaches, who they were coached by always played a big role in how the interview went. And, I still feel as strongly about that today as I did, the whole time that I coached, that I think in most cases, to be a great coach, you had to have been coached by somebody that was a great coach. And I feel strongly about that. I really do.
He's one
so
of
let me ask you,
old school guys. He's still some old school mindset. I mean, he got up in the early 80s, and was fortunate to have a great career at Iowa under Hayden Fry, and it was great.
So let me ask you this: when you tried out for football at Central Michigan, what was the tryout?
It's pretty hilarious, to be honest. So, we get in the indoor. I can't remember. There was no nothing. There's all right, here we go. We're gonna run you around. I mean, it's a bunch of guys that shouldn't be there. And I'm not saying I should have been either. This is a MAC level football in Central Michigan. I mean, it was tryhards, and at the time they were not in a good spot. Not winning many games, but they wanted practice players and guys that just wanted to be there. And you run some routes. You just run around some general agilities. We did run a 40, and I think that was it. It was all on the field, and it was maybe half an hour of just, hey, let's see you move around. And I'm not going to lie, Coach, and I think that's why we're in this industry. One of the things I did was I was out there getting guys lined up, being encouraging to the other guys there. I think that's just how my personality is. Yeah. And maybe that played a part. Like I said at the time, it was Mike DeBoard. It was, Butch Jones was my position coach in college for the first couple of years. Obviously, he's moved on to be head coach at multiple places. There was Tony Dews was there. I mean, there's some pretty good coaches that went through there that were there at the time. And Joe Danos, he's popped around the NFL all over the place. And I just ran around. They were like, that kid will probably try hard. We'll throw him at running back, scout team, and I mean, he'll never go out. Cause that's what I thought. I said, listen, I'll run every play. I don't care. And, and I'll get to it, but one of my assistants here, Ike Brown, once again, kind of a reoccurring joke we have with the recruits, him and I were in the same position room in college. And he, I'll just say he doesn't, he's a little more fit than me and a little bit more genetically gifted than I. And we have some stories of, I didn't care. I just wanted to work and do whatever I could for the team. And that's why I think I'm in the position I'm in, and I just want to drive that, for other guys to have success.
Yeah. I heard something today. I was listening to a podcast, and it was Tony Holler, and he was talking about, he's talking about speed development and coaching track, but he said that, great coaches have a tendency to be able to motivate athletes, but he said great athletes motivate coaches to do their very best also. And so, there's something to be said about having a room full of try hard guys, because they motivate you to do a better job for them. And I thought that was a great quote.
Yeah, I'm writing that down.
Oh, you like that? Great athletes motivate. Yeah, coaches. And, when you got a room full of guys smashing weights and sprinting their tails off, I mean, it makes coaching fun, man, and you're not always pulling your hair out. Yeah. So there are a lot of really important things to consider when you're coaching and programming for football. And how do you go about keeping those important things important?
Yeah, so I think we talked a little bit about prior to this, but once again, going back to Coach Longo, literally, he gave me two, words of wisdom, or here's what you got to live by. And the first one was make the important things important. And I'll expand upon that outside of football. The other thing he said, I can't say on air here, we'll have to say, but basically had to do with having your girlfriends at the workplace. Don't do that. And
yeah,
but make the important things important. In programming, it's that. Simply, don't get caught up with what's the spice of life right now, or stick with your philosophy, and believe in it, because that's gonna matter to the players. The players are gonna know if you're just making things up as you go, or hey, I just saw this, another coach did this, so I want to try it. We gotta do what we want to do. And I always, for me, it really comes down to the three different physiological qualities we want to train, and it's speed, power, and strength. And that's what I start by. That's all right. Here's what I want to do, and I work backwards. Say, hey, what's the game? What's the practices like? Then we kind of see what we need. But that's the important things. It's not, it's what's best for the guys. What's optimal? What can you make them tired? Of course. Can you make them train hard and it's tough and all that? Yeah, and that's going to come along the way with consistency and things like that. But you have to be able to lean back on what you believe in. And I'm fortunate. Coach Kelly, Brian Kelly, as my head coach, he believes and trusts in each. That's why he's so successful. Is he trusts in each of his pillars, and with me, we talk a lot, and I want to make sure that my message and his message is the same. But he trusts that, hey, how I'm, physically preparing and developing, these athletes is being done in a manner that will, provide for them a structure to succeed on Saturdays ultimately. And that's what we care about. Yeah. So in the end, what's important is being on the field on Saturdays during the fall and performing well at a high level. Then you can layer back and say, okay, well, how do we get to that? It's, right now it's February 8th, what are we doing to get there? If we win January and February, and we're the best strength staff in the country, and we have all the numbers and the speed and the jumps and bench and all, then we don't perform on Saturdays, then what's it matter? But it's all part of it, but you got to make sure to be able to lean back on your beliefs. And then outside of that, and this is why I can provide so much, in this atmosphere, is that make the important things outside of here. And I have to be reminded of that daily. I know we'll get into it, but I have 6 children at home and a wife, and that's important more than anything. Yeah. And that's why I truly love working for Coach Kelly, because he believes in that, and he knows that when it comes down to it, that's what matters. So if something has to happen, then I got to get home, then that's part of it. And I can trust in my staff and such, that they're going to get the job done. But, when it comes to programming, though, I'm going to lean back on what I believe in and hammer those things. Because one of the things, if you walk in from the indoor, coach, we put a sign up, Coach Kelly put a sign up that as you walk into the weight room, it says, don't mistake activity with achievement. So if you're just running in circles or running in place, you're just being active, what I mean? But achievement, and that's both on the field, off the field, there we go. You want to be able to, heck yeah.
Scared me for a second.
My wife, of course, this is on a tangent, obviously. She comes home, calls me Thanksgiving. We're going to Texas A&M. Obviously, we had a little slip up there, but we're going to Texas A&M, and she calls me on Thanksgiving. She's up in Michigan, and she's like, hey, got a dog. I was like, we've been talking about it, but it was like, all right, let's just throw them in the mix. Let's go. Anyways, but
6
yeah,
kids and a dog.
Yeah, and a dog and a wife and all that, and then I got 100 kids here, so it's awesome. I love it. But in the end, you gotta be able to have your habits and your routines and be able to make the important things important, so that it's not just everything. If everything consumes you, then you're not going to succeed. You're not going to make it. So,
good deal. And I like that, because there's so much stuff that goes on around you, and there's so much stuff that you can see and hear every day with input from assistant coaches and the internet and Twitter and Instagram, that you have to focus on the important things. That's really good. I like that. So you've talked a lot about your career path. What was your thought process in choosing different places to go and different jobs, or not choosing jobs, and making sure that where you are is the right fit?
Yeah. So it took me a while to get to this chair, if you will, to be a director. And it took me 16 years as an assistant, and all with Coach Kelly. And I thank him for giving me this platform to do this. But obviously, I think I've earned it, and I know I have. But it made me who I am. And one of the things that he said, because I've had opportunities, here and there, and every few years or a couple of years or a year there for a little while, you'd have you make calls and connections, and I was fortunate to be at the same place for 12 seasons, at Notre Dame for 12 seasons, and it's great. Get to know a lot of people, pretty good connections, but Coach Kelly would always say, don't run from a job, run to a job. And that always stuck with me. The first time I was like, Coach, can you make a call? And he's like, well, what are you talking about? And then obviously, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I'll gladly do that for you, Jake. I want to make sure that you have the best opportunity for you. But are you just running away from, you just want to be a head strength coach? I said, yeah. You're like, yeah, I'm ready to go. This is years ago. I'm ready. And he's like, okay, yeah, but just make sure, Jake. He said, don't just run from a job, run to a job. Go where you want to go. You're going to succeed at a higher level if you're, and I'm fortunate. I'm at LSU. I don't want to go anywhere else. And I'm serious. Like, Coach, if I could get half of what you've given, to this place, I will be more than fortunate. And, but that's what it is. Obviously, I don't like to leave places anytime quickly. If I can stay at Notre Dame for 12 years and, I had all my children in the same hospital, baptized in the same church. I mean, I was good to go. And then, but obviously this opportunity comes, I ran to it, and I mean, there's more to it than that, but hey, you're the head, you're the head strength coach at LSU. Like, sign me up. Heck yeah. I will. That's where you got to run to. You're running to that job. Yeah. Some of those, and it's there's guys that, hey, I want to be a head strength coach now, so I can learn and make mistakes. And listen, I'm gonna make mistakes most likely, and hopefully, not too bad. But I have Coach Kelly. Fortunately, he's the best. I mean, I'm a little bit biased, but I have him to clean up if anything happens.
He did a pretty damn good job this year. So,
but that's that was my process, as far as, I stuck to it, assistant, associate director, whatever, co-director, all those different, levels to it. And it, without all of the years leading up, it wouldn't have made me as good of a coach person as I am today, right now. If I would have left and, some of the jobs that I was going to take the head coach didn't last too long. And I think back and I'm like, it was the right, everything's going to happen for a reason, and it's all going to make sense in the end.
That reminds me of a coach, and something that we talked about. Hopefully you never have to experience this, but I guess it had to be my first year, because the coach I'm going to talk about is Coach Pete Jenkins, who was the coach. I knew Coach Jenkins as a high school coach in New Orleans, and he's actually the coach that recommended me to Coach Saban. and how I ultimately got the job here. But we had a storm, and it was in the fall. It was a named storm, a hurricane. I don't remember the name of it, but it wasn't a bad one. But it was still a hurricane, and there were trees down all over Baton Rouge. And so we were sitting in work today that day, and he said, something you'll learn no matter how bad the storm is, you still go to work.
Oh, yeah.
But we were sitting in the office, and he started talking about the different types of trees that fall over in a hurricane. And he said, you have these big live oak trees and palm trees, and you have all these different trees that can withstand the storms. And then you have these other trees that topple over with the slightest wind that blows. And he said, what do you think the difference in those trees are? So I started naming off all these things. And he goes, no, those trees that can withstand those incredible forces are the ones with deep roots. And in order, to have a great career, a coach has to be someone willing to set down really deep roots. And that kind of clicked with me, and so that's kind of the way I envision my career here, because if you're going to be someone that achieves great things, if you're always bouncing around jobs, you're not going to win a national championship. It takes time. And it's kind of, our success here was like a 4-year Olympic cycle. We won it in 2004. We won it in 2008, really. It was the 2007 season, but 2008 national championship. Then we played for one in 2011. And then we missed a year there, but a year between 2011 and 2019. I mean, we missed the cycle, but most of our wins came in 4-year, like an Olympic cycle. And you don't do that if you're jumping around chasing jobs, And so Coach Kelly is right, man. You've got to set down some roots and, make a place home. And that's what we did. That's what the Moffitt family did. So, All right. So here's a question I was really excited about this question here. So moving from South Bend in the middle of the winter to Baton Rouge had to have been a bit of a cultural shock. So how has the family adjusted to life in BR? And besides working at LSU, what's probably been the best thing about living down here?
Yeah. So I moved down here in December, as you know, kind of the tail end of that last, 2021 season. My wife and kids, this is funny. I got the job, and my wife, who's a special ed teacher at the school that my kids went to, a Catholic school in South Bend, she goes, I'm not quitting. I will finish out the year. So, and she's like, so will the kids. So I'm like, respect. Okay. That's where I got most of my grit was from being with her for 20 years plus. And, so they didn't, come down right away. So she stayed in the winter, until June. They didn't move down until June.
Oh, wow.
But, so they stayed till June.
That's right. I remember you telling me that.
Yep. And then, but I was down here. So that was tough. I was away, from them for a while, but, I remember, this is a great story. So the first, obviously got through, the bowl prep when I first got here, and it was just chaos, as you could imagine. And then we got settled in with the first off season in January.
Yeah.
Well, it might have been the first training session or within the first few days, and I had a team run. That's basically the whole team, and I didn't know any better. I was like, we're going outside. Like, it's what I have known. I mean, at Cincinnati for the 3 years, we didn't have a practice field. We didn't have an indoor. We only had the game field. This is obviously 2007, 8, 9. Anyways, and then Coach Kelly is we're going to go outside. It doesn't matter what's going on. He always wants to be outside, and it's just driven in my brain that's where we're going to train. And I think we'll get to another question at some point. But so we're outside. And I had it was like 6 or 6:30. It was before light, and I had to turn the lights on, and Lou had to figure out where those things are. And so I'm outside, and Coach, it's probably 32, maybe. It's in the 30s. So it's cold, as you guys call it. Yeah. And I'm not a tough guy, but I had short sleeve shirts and shorts on. I didn't know anybody. I was like, okay, we're rolling. Like, this is what we're going to do. So I get out there, and the players come out, and they are like, "Coach, you're crazy. What are we doing? Like, we don't do this, Coach. We're inside. It's cold out here." They got their hands in their sleeves and they're cuddling up, and I'm like, "Guys, like I literally, like, I couldn't conceptualize what they were talking about." I'm like, "Guys, we're good. Like, we're going. We're running, man." And so we started, and I said, "Don't worry, you'll pay me back in the summer. Don't worry, you're gonna get me back, because I'm not gonna be ready for that. So I'll get you now. You'll get me later." And so we started off with a bang, and it was great. And then it hit me in the summer. I mean, it definitely was. I mean, shoot, yesterday, Coach, I mean, I was sweating. For no reason. It's February, and I called my mom up in Michigan, and she's got 6 inches of snow. And we're sitting here, and my kids are like celebrities because they've seen feet of snow. So we have. I mean, in the winter, especially in South Bend, we get a lot of that lake effect snow off of Chicago area. It'll dump pretty hard during the winter, so we'll get some pretty significant snow. And I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't miss it a little. I do. I like snow. One of the most relaxing things, and we're not talking about strength and conditioning, but is shoveling snow at 4 a.m. Having the snow come down. And but the kids, I mean, they love it. I mean, we were in the pool a couple weeks ago. All that stuff. They no more winter gear. They can go to the pool with maybe a light jacket. But it's they're getting involved with the Louisiana Fair. I know one thing, and we're pretty simple as far as our what we eat. And we haven't branched out much yet, and we got to get to we haven't hit the crawfish yet. We haven't went crazy with some different Louisiana.
So no crawfish yet, huh?
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, living up north, we never got into seafood. I mean, my wife and I didn't eat. We ate some every once in a while, salmon or something, but it was pretty rare. And so we haven't exposed our kids much to that. We got a little pizza joint out by us, Estroma Brewery, that we really like to go to outside.
Oh,
pizza. Yeah. So it's pizza, but not much Louisiana in the Flint house yet. We'll get there. Right. We're hitting the Mardi Gras. We're trying to get involved with some king cakes.
Good luck with that.
And things like that. I mean, we're going to build floats for a school. The twins, of course. We're getting it. We're trying to get a little Louisiana in the Flint house here.
Well, so I was going to ask you if you have a favorite restaurant. So it's a Estroma Brewery, but I'm going to tell you what. One of our favorite restaurants is right. It's on River Road. It's not far from where you live. It's called Roberto's. Have you heard about Roberto's?
I have. I haven't been there, but
oh my gosh, it's right down the road from y'all, man. You need to go try that out.
Yeah, when we got here, Dr. Frakes, I know we'll get to him. He built a lift. I mean,
did he?
And he was like, "All right, guys, we got a group text. All the strength coaches, and obviously including Frakes, and all right, here's what we're doing. We're hitting all these places, and we're chopping them off here and there. And so, Paranes and all the places.
Okay, good. Well, you've been out a little bit. Yeah, you've been out a little bit. I'll have to send you my list.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, Roberto's is fine. I mean, it's fine. So a little tip, and hopefully we get a sponsorship from Roberto's, but it's really good.
Yeah.
All right. So what was your first impression of the LSU weight room?
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, Coach, I'm the new version, of old school, I guess. And I really haven't changed much of the room. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. I just want open space. And,
good.
I'm a weightlifter. I believe in it. I just want a place to lift weights, jump around, run. I mean, I'm not complex in some things, but simple in most things. And to be honest, what we've added is, and we'll get into some technology pieces, that just are simple, but the room itself, the only thing I added, Coach, was collars. I bought some collars for all the barbells. It was crazy the first week we were here, the guys. And I'm a weightlifter, so I didn't even blink an eye. The weightlifting culture, we don't use collars.
No.
Ever. Like if I was like maxing out, like getting a heavy single. But other than that, we just slap the plates on and we're rolling. Like next set, bam. And but I did buy some collars. That's probably the most significant purchase we had in the actual weight room. But other than that, Coach, I mean, I like open space. I like just a great atmosphere. I like big groups. Get a nice environment going. There's different things going on at the same time, but we're all together and want the weights banging and the barbells going.
You know, so every time I walked in the room, so I got to tell you about one of the things that I didn't like, you know, the back corner in the far back by the storage room.
Yep.
So initially I wanted that back corner to be the supplement, like the counter, what do you call it, fueling station.
Yeah.
And initially in the drawings, that's where the fueling station was supposed to be, was in that back corner. And I thought it would be good for, you know, other athletes coming off the street or the team come just park in the parking lot, come in the fueling station there, get them something to drink, and then go through the weight room. And the storage room was right there beside that. But for some reason, the only influence that then the AD, I can't remember his name now, he's not there anymore, but he was an associate AD. His idea was to put it up front. And I thought I didn't think it was a good idea, but that was the only thing that we changed. And still, it kind of bothered me because, you know, those young ladies would always have to push their carts, you know, right through the middle of the workout. And it would always remind me that, you know, God, if we had just put the fueling station in the back corner, and it would have been, you know, the music wouldn't have been as loud back there either. So they could have been able to talk a little bit. I'm sure some of the guys, I don't know if y'all listened to it as loud as we did, but man, that stereo rocks.
There's some loud music going on. I like loud music. I'm part of it now. Another story, Coach Longo, as it pertains to music, when he became the head strength coach, I was still a player. No music. And the athletes don't believe me these days. I mean, we didn't have, he literally pulled the radio out. So our first, however many years at Central Michigan, every year at Cincinnati, never turned the radio on once. And then the first 3 years, I think, at Notre Dame, never turned the radio on. And it's a little different. And I not my personality. I like music. And but it was he just wanted to, you guys create the energy.
And you know, training halls, weightlifting training halls, there's not any music.
That's part he talked about that before. I want you to lock in on what you need to, right now.
And there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
There's
that back area now, Coach, we've actually put that's where we got our force plate and NOR So during the lifts, the guys can, it's kind of seamless. They can go back there in that little cave, whatever you want to call it, and pop back in. So that's where we've been able to. We got on that screen back there, the monitor, and they can see live. All the data streaming and things like that.
So when you took the job at LSU, you were a first-time head coach, director. How did you go about assembling that first official staff and hiring coaches that were going to be progressive, forward thinkers?
Yeah. So, like I said, I was slow cooked my career, if you will, being an assistant for a long time. And I literally kept a notebook of, hey, if I get a job today, I'm calling these 5, 6, 3, 4 guys that I just know, one are great coaches. Some of them, most of them are friends, but I want to start with great people and great coaches. And I know that that'll be the start and the foundation to, what we want. So, and I just always had them in there. And I was fortunate, all the assistants that I've hired, this first staff, I've worked with besides one. Like I said, Ike Brown, who, we played football together, practiced, if you will, at Central Michigan. And he went on to be a strength coach at Tennessee, so he's got some SEC, experience. He was a head strength coach in the CFL most recently for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So that's where he's been the last, I want to say, 4 years prior to coming to LSU. And me and him, we just kept close over the years, and I knew how much of an influence and a relationship based he would be with the players, but also a great coach. You could be the friendliest guy in the world, but if you don't know how to coach and hold guys accountable, then we're not going to see eye to eye. I also don't want a bunch of me. I'm who I am. I have some silliness to me. I have some personality, but I'm very serious at times. And you know, I want to make sure that we have a little bit of, you know, across the board, across the spectrum as far as the strength staff goes. You know, Kyle Seger was with me at Notre Dame our last year. He was coming from Georgia Tech, coming from Temple, South Carolina, with his experience coaching. He played at Ball State, so we both have MAC experience, and so Midwest guy, you know what it's worth, but he's been around. Sean Faccioni was really the only guy that I had not worked with previously, and he worked with actually Paul Jackson at Ole Miss, and he was at Cincinnati also, which we had some mutual friends, and so and worked when Dr. Frakes was at Ole Miss. They overlap. So anyway, he was a great influence to where he was at, and I brought him along. And Xavier Gooden, who played at Missouri, played in the NFL for a while, and then interned for us at Notre Dame. He'd been out at USC, Southern California, last year, and it was the right time. And I've always had him like he's the most, you know, respected, just nicest guy. But when he goes, it's pretty good. And when he coaches, it's pretty dynamic. And then, you know, obviously Scott Kuhn, manager of applied sports science. He's a background in strength conditioning. I mean, he's a strength conditioning coach by trade, but he's always kind of been on the sports science side, if you will. And it was not unlike myself, who, you know, I kind of call the old school sports science guy, because at Notre Dame, you know, really in the mid 2010s, 2013, 14, I started GPS and force play and all that at Notre Dame. And I was the pseudo sports science guy, but so Scott's got the same kind of track. And then we literally met over through a mutual friend and just have talked. And then when I you know was fortunate enough to get this job, I know how much of an important piece that is in my kind of model. And then I just said, Coach Kelly, I think this is a guy that we're going to want to really consider if we can have this position also. And he's very data driven himself, Coach Kelly. So it was just, you know, we needed it. And then, you know, my GA, a couple interns, and, you know, we need them all. Jordan Pinella, who's now Scott's assistant, he's got a Wall Street background, a pretty unique background, and he quit everything and got into strength conditioning. And now he's my super nerd. I say super nerd, because he's on that computer and he's smacking things, and I don't know what the hell he's doing. And he'll come out and say, you know, our correlations are this, and that. I'm like, all right, sweet. Like, we're doing the right thing. Are we training them hard and good? Like, good, thanks. So, you know, you need a dynamic staff, and you know, we want to all get along, of course. And it's like a family, you know, there's a lot of discussion, you know, but we get along, which I think drives everything up every day as far as our energy and our output to the players. But we all have different personalities and different, you know, none of them have 6 kids, and you know, things like that. So they don't know about 6 kids. They don't know about the work. Like I say, I got to go to work, and they're like, Coach, what are you talking about? We just got done. I'm like, no, I got to go home. Like, it's time to work. I got work to do. So
Now, do they, in sports science, does Scott and your super nerd, do they use Excel or Tableau?
So Excel we got some Excel, but we actually, so a couple different things. One of the athlete management system that we use is Smartabase. So Smartabase. Smarta. Oh, like a Boston accent, Smarta. Smartabase. So we have dove into it, and we are full. We're all in Smartabase dashboards, and Scott has done an incredible job of being able to, you know, it all looks good, but it's all meaningful. And I tell them, like, listen, I don't want to just have pretty looking dashboards and colors, and it's got to be meaningful for me and the coaches and the position coaches, because that's what matters the most. So he has a great way of visualization, but also, you know, having meaningful correlations and just seeing all of the data streams that we have. We want to make it, first of all, as non-invasive as possible for the players. We want it to just be seamless, just part of training. it's just part of training, and then
Right.
we just gather it but also we give it back to them. So the players all have access to all of their data all the time, which probably, a lot of people don't do. And, but I want the players to know where they're at. And so that we can have relevant and real conversations. But to go back to your original question, Jordan is actually, he uses R. Do you know what R is? So R is I don't even know how to explain it. It's a data-driven software that can do high-level equations. It's Excel. It's juiced up Excel. You know what I mean? At a higher level. And so Excel sometimes can get bogged down with the equations. And so there's some stuff, a little bit of both, but a lot of it, the majority of all of our data is inputted into Smarterbase, and a lot of it is it's just automatic. You know what I mean? It's APIs.
They've already got the dashboards built, the backgrounds built out. Now, do you just put the CSV files into Smarterbase, or?
So a lot of it is automated. We've gotten to the point where, so Vald, Catapult, I mean, down to all of our force plate, our NORDBOARD data, our smart speed data, which is from their timing gates, elite form data, which is from our velocity based tracking system. Our Aura rings that we have, all that stuff has APIs. So it's just, it's basically, it automatically uploads, and then Scott builds. He's the crafter of every dashboard, if you will, and every piece of visualization that we have for both. It's different. The strength staff's going to see something different than the running back coach. Coach Kelly's got a little different dash or home screen and dashboard availability than Bo Lowry. But I want to make sure that all of the data that we're gathering, everybody has access to at in what they need. You know what I mean? And we track a lot, and we have I'm not sure how much you want me to dive into it, but we call them SWAT teams. So our accountability teams. So our
that's something that that it was, there was a lot said about it, and so.
And Coach Kelly, it's obviously his system that he truly believes in, and I obviously believe in too. We built it at the last play at Notre Dame, and it's a way to, keep track of everything. That's the best way to put it. We have there's kind of 4 pillars that go into it. Everything in the weight room, and that's, hey, we're tracking your back squat and power output. It might not be weight. Some days it may be. We're tracking, whatever, maybe vertical jump, obviously force, whatever. We're tracking. So that's one pillar. The second pillar is on the field. So all of our speed data, all of our competitive agilities that we might do on a team run day when we got guys matched up against each other. Academics we look at, and it's not what's your grades. It's, are you doing the right thing? Are you going to tutoring, going to class checks, handling your business? And then we have a kind of all-encompassing discipline category that's, are you cleaning your locker? Our equipment manager Lee goes through. Are you keeping it clean? Are you taking your supplements? Are you doing meal checks? It's a lot of different things. That's kind of everything.
The intangibles.
And so you get points. It's pretty deep, but all of it's in Smarterbase. And that's one thing I know Smarterbase has told us. No team, I'll give a shout out to Smarterbase, is no team is going as in depth as we are with accountability teams. So a player can go on his profile on his phone and man, why am I underneath the standard today? Why this week I'm underneath the Tiger standard board? What's going on? He can click in and see his points that he gathered for the week, and he can see his negative points, click on it and see exactly what day, what class, or why he didn't hold the standard. You know what I mean? And we want to make sure that we're not hiding any information. I want to make sure everybody knows, and I think that builds accountability. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's what the biggest thing is we're driving leadership and accountability and opportunities for that.
Yeah, and it drives intent also. Yeah. Exactly. Because they see it up there, not just performance based, but they see everything up there. And academics, if you let academics slide, or if you let discipline slide, then you're going to have issues. And so, that was something that I wanted to to ask you about, and then I'm sure Dr. Frakes has been a huge help, and you can't ever undersell a great sports dietitian. You can't. They play such an important role, especially, with hard gainers or heavy guys. And I'm going to call them heavy guys. I'm being nice. But that's huge, man. And you've got to have somebody that those people respect. And you've got to have somebody that can communicate to all the different people that you have. And so I'm sure he's been a big asset.
Oh yeah, he's incredible. I mean, number one, I brought him down in the weight room. He's literally in every training session. His office is right next to mine now. It's the first office. That's how important he is. He's right there. So he's all involved. And, he's in front of the team. He played football once again. I guess I got to give a shout out to the MAC. I mean, he played at Bowling Green, he's been through it. He did his doctorate, on concussions and creatine, and he's very intelligent. But also he can relate to the players, man. He knows what they're going through. As far as his upbringing and things like that, he can talk about it on their level. And along with that, I gotta say he's got to be damn near the strongest dietitian in the nation.
He might be.
I watched him walk out of his office, that first bench right there. We just had 225 on there for some reason. He just went out there, didn't even warm up, ripped it for 24, racked it, and I'm like, what are you doing? And but that's part of it. He's got natural energy. He loves it, man. He loves being here and helping them. And there's a lot of education that needs to be done. And it's not always, what I love about him is, hey, we're not going to eat chicken and broccoli and rice the whole time. And
right.
We're going to weigh our protein. We're going to figure out a way that you can, have success. And it might come in different forms and fashion for each guy. Some guys might do that. They might say, yes, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to be on it. And then some guys, hey coach, I got to eat canes, whatever. I don't know, like Raising Cane's like once a week. And we got to find a way to find the balance. But he's been incredible, honestly. Like he's in every practice, obviously, every session. Like he's very highly involved. And I want that. I told him that. Like you got to be, because it's as important as anything else. And we lean heavily into it.
Yeah, if you've got somebody in that position that you have to go look for when the players are in the weight room, you're not going to be successful. Because that's the best time to talk to them about eating. Guys come to you and they're dizzy, and then you ask them what's wrong, and they haven't eaten since the night before. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. The college football player hasn't eaten since dinner a day ago, and you can't have that. Can't have that. It's too critical.
These guys.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, all too well. Look at this gray hair right here.
Oh yeah.
So, with all the technology that you have, and then you have a data-driven head football coach, and you've talked about delivering all of this information to the ball coach. How do you use that, or do you use that to plan and prepare for practice and games?
Yeah. So obviously off season, we're the way we build off season, first of all, is off of our in season. We started Catapult. We started using Catapult in 2014 at Notre Dame, and just tracking. Coach Wellman was integral, and he did a lot of his PhD work while we were at Notre Dame. So he opened my eyes up to it, and just kind of once again fell in love with, why are we guessing? Now there's many layers to it, right? Speed obviously is the fun one. How fast did I run? Velocity, which is a part, but it's all contextual, right? How are you getting to that speed? How are you, utilizing that speed in the game? And what, you gotta raise your top end to raise your low end, but all those things. So we look at the in-season data and then obviously reverse engineer. I know it's kind of a hot word to use, but it's truly what we do is we look at it. And like I said, we've been doing it I really started after 2014 and 2015 when Coach Wellman came in. He's like, do you know what a game really, what it looks like? And I was like, I got a pretty good idea of time of possession, play drives. Like we did all that, of course. But looking at, yardage and high-speed yardage, acceleration, decelerations, IMAs. They have contact load now, all these different metrics that, matter for different positions. We just peel it back. And once again, I'm fortunate. Coach Kelly, he not only he keeps me on my toes. So he's
awesome.
into the data before I am, and he's like, "Did you see this spike in what?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, Coach, I got you." We're doing great. And but he's he's highly intelligent, but also yes, we practice model off of it, and we use a budget system, if you will, and we use there's a few different layers to it. It's both individual and as a team, and we got to know which days are giving us which days we want to push, pull, and he has a plan. And in the end, I tell him this all the time, Coach, you know what you're doing. Listen, you got 30 plus years of experience. You know what it looks like. I've been with you for 19 of those years. So I fully trust in you, but let's make sure we're aware of some of these things. So during the off season, like I said, we have streams of data that he's looking at right now. I mean, he's looking at
that is awesome.
Out here. He'll come down and say, "Did you see his, Will Campbell's, squat peak power yesterday?" And I'll be like, "Yeah,
wow."
I did." And I mean, it's as in deep as that. He loves
That's
it,
all.
and but also understands that it ebbs and flows. But during the season, we're talking about having to expose the guys to 90% plus max velocity at least once a week and on certain days, and he'll be like, "Man, we didn't get it. That means we got to do it tomorrow, right?" And I'll say, "Yeah, let's craft a way to organically get that." Not I don't want to have to pull a guy to the side and have him do a build up or a fly or something like that. Let's have it happen within the context of football. That's what these different things that we need to hit. And and once again, the SWAT team kind of keeps it. All these things are competitive. So once again, all of our elite form data, all of our smart speed data, all of our GP, all these things are included in the competition and gathering points every week for these different disciplines. So he's looking at it. But during the season, we meet daily, and there's catapult reports that we do build off of the actual open field, and then Smarter Base also gives us a little bit more layered to the context to the information. But I just try to keep him informed as much as we can, and we're flexible with our scheduling. But I mean, he's got a plan, and then we build it from there. Our fall camp, we were very fortunate this past year. We had a great fall camp, and a lot of it had to do with how we built it, and how we acclimatized to it.
Yeah, and the good thing about it is it's right there on his desk or in his office, so he doesn't have to ask somebody to bring it to him. He sees it immediately, and like you said, sometimes he sees it before you see it.
Exactly.
Yeah, he doesn't have 6 kids now.
No, sir.
All right, so weather I know is critical, and you talked about training camp. So can you talk about the weather and the heat and how y'all worked around that, or was it an issue at all?
An issue. I mean, I think we're pretty fortunate. I don't know if you remember this past summer, we were able to get through, summer training, fall camp. Now we have it indoor, obviously, that we utilize at times when we need to. But like I said before, I'm outside as much as I can. In the summer, I mean, we're outside, and
you can't run from it. Yeah.
I made the schedule up so that we had exposure in the afternoon, one day a week. But I wanted to make sure to get out there and just get some exposure so we could build a tolerance over time. But it literally rained here every day, I think, in June and July, close to it. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. But it would rain and then it'd be beautiful in an hour. It was wild. But there's times like that. I remember you texted me, I think, before the first game, like, "Hey, remember, if it rains or if we got a situation in the stadium, you got to be prepared." And I appreciate you, man. We got to be prepared for that. There's going to be some lightning. It doesn't ever rain in Death Valley, but you just got to be prepared for what may come about. And but that's the biggest thing is I did build tolerance of heat exposure over time, and just the same thing during fall camp. Coach Kelly is he's smart, man. He's savvy, and obviously Bo Lowry is great communicator with Coach Kelly and I, and we built in if we had to take a 10-minute break in the middle, we took a 10-minute break, and then get out of the heat for a little bit and get back in. The Boudreaux boxes and such were great. Cool off a little bit and let's get back to work. But yeah, and it's definitely a factor you have to be aware of for sure around here.
Yeah, and that's why now the Tigers play an away game or a game indoors for the first game every fall, and it's because of the weather. That's why you go to places like Houston and Dallas or New Orleans to play in the Superdome, is to get out of the lightning delays, and it can be a serious factor if you're not prepared for it. So let's get to some nuts and bolts here. So you're in the middle of the off season. Can you take us through a basic week of training and kind of outline, those training days and the emphasis that you place on each day? Because I think that's really, what our listeners want to hear, but I like to hear all the stories and stuff like that myself. But
I always go off on a tangent sometimes.
Yeah, no, I think that's what, so some of my buddies say, Coach, when you go off script, that's the best part about the podcast. So I don't have a problem with that, but we're, so how's the week laid out, and how do you, what emphasis do you place on each day?
Yeah. So generally speaking, right now, obviously, we're working on getting away from our orthopedic stress from the season. There's things that happen through the season. We're still into it a little bit. We're week 4, getting into it. But there's some guys still just feeling the wear and tear. So there's definitely some things you got to work off of that. But obviously we're building general qualities, physical qualities to prepare us for, what's the next step. The next step for us is spring ball, and we have 15 practice opportunities that, they're great exposures to, specific football related activities that we can practice, and we can practice at a pretty high level. There's days in between, so you're not as worried about back-to-back collision days. So that's what we're training away from and training for. As far as the week structure, I emphasize speed. I like to train, and I know it, kind of keep my highly neurological days away from each other. So this is how my week goes. Monday we all start, and there's layers to it, right? Positionally, year, training age, things like that matter. But the general scope of things are Monday we start on the field, and it's acceleration based. So working a 10-yard, 15-yard, we'll see how far we can expand it out. But you're that's your phase on the field. All the different preparation and drills off of that. It's typically about, let's call it 30 to 45 minutes. It depends on the week and the exposures that we want. And then we travel right into the weight room, and that's our lower body emphasized day, and it's more involved with starting strength and strength speed. Obviously we try to marry what we're doing on the field with what we're doing in the weight room. But it's so it's a lot of lower body. We'll do our unilateral heavy day that day. We're always working obviously posterior chain, and typically we'll do some jumps either in the weight room or on the field. And mostly that day is our horizontal jump day. So we'll do your broad jump variations and different vectors from there. Tuesday we'll start in the weight room. So we'll flip it. We'll start in the weight room and do primarily, once again, an upper body based day. I try to always get a little bit of, it's not total body in structure, but it's upper body emphasized, and it's your heavy upper body day. So we're hitting, typically a bench press, obviously heavy rows, things like that. And then we'll travel outside to it's our work day. It's our work capacity day. And, conditioning, if you want to call it that, tempo day. That's where we gain volume and, exposure to some longer, duration of running for across the board. Now, some of it may be, for the big guys, obviously that's where you get really individual based upon position. Some of the big guys will, after they build a pretty good foundation, we'll cut the running down on the feet stuff, and we'll do more just based upon what they need to be exposed to. So
Right.
it could be, grappling, things like that, but it's just pretty, tempo based that's what we want, some work capacity stuff. And we call it like it is. I'm going to go off script a little bit. We had a coach out there, we coaches will watch every once in a while, and we're on the grass as much as we can. And, one of the kids was going too fast. That's why we have GPS. I have Scott out there doing live tracking, and I want to stay in a certain percentage. Now, obviously it varies, but I don't want them running too fast. Definitely don't want them running too slow. There's going to be days when we're going fast and we're going to be, fatigued. Then there's going to be days when we're not going as fast and we're going to be tired. I'm not going to give you as much rest. And Scott yells out, and I reiterate, like, hey, you need to slow down. You're going too fast. And the coach looks at me like, he's going too fast. What are you talking about? And I'm like, hey, I got this.
Yeah.
Trust me. And we'll go there. Yeah, So anyways, so we'll do that. Wednesday, we get together as a team, and I call it team run. We get together, and the majority of it is your change of direction, your competitive stuff. We're working, I build change of direction in there, and it gets, reactive, all those different things. We build layers. We start very basic and just build off of from there. So some of it, I try to build in different exposures to curve sprinting, to, true change of direction, just simple activities, reactive things off of different humans. I try to push implements there, maybe pull implements, things like that. And then we bring the SWAT teams together and typically do some kind of competition, whether it be, fun stuff or stuff that we had a couple guys not feeling that well after our competition the other day. We had echo bikes. We got some those bikes. We had a little calorie count competition, and it was pretty fun. It was pretty grueling, but we typically try to compete with as much as we can that day. Thursdays, no on the field work, if you will. We do always start in the indoor and do some kind of movement prep every day, no matter what, but there's no running, if you will.
Right.
I do a lot of my, I'll do gymnastics that day. That's the best way to put it. I'll do tumbling. I'll do, falling in different varieties. I do a lot of that stuff in preparation. And the guys, obviously,
that's true. That's true. Weight room preparation. That was old school weightlifting.
We'll crawl a lot of different crawling variations, and the guys, at first they're like, what are we doing somersaults for? And I'm like, you're going to do this in the game. Like, so let's do it here. And then, that'll be an upper body emphasize, kind of a more dynamic day. Once again, looking at the strength, speed, strength vector. And then on Friday is our max velocity day. So we'll typically through the modality of a fly, 10 of some sorts, but there's different ways. We've done floats, we've done buildups, but we'll have a high velocity day on the field to start. And that's more for a vertical plyo component. And then come in the weight room and we'll squat. That's our squat day. We'll get after squat, heavy posterior chain that day, and then send them off to the weekend.
Now, on Wednesday, when you do the team run, do you do that in the morning or in the afternoon?
So right now we're all mornings. So everything's in the morning. So we structured it so that how we want spring ball to go. We want spring ball in the morning. So everything's done.
Oh, wow.
Typically our last group, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, it ends at 11, I think, our last group. So we got groups that start at about 6:30, then we go to 11. Now Wednesday is just one time, try to get to sleep in a little bit, 8 a.m. We'll go 8 to 9 and just hammer it.
So you're going to start practicing in the morning now?
Yep. And
that's huge. Yeah.
In the spring. Now in the fall, coach flips it. We practice in the afternoon.
Okay. So academics has had to really make some changes to their routine to allow that to happen. That's good.
A little bit. Yep.
It's been, that's super, man. And I like that switch up. I really do. A lot of good stuff there, man. Now you didn't mention any team runs like, fourth quarter program or anything like that. So y'all don't do any type of running like that?
We kind of, all of our structure of everything that we do, it leads into and will bleed into, football specific work here.
Okay, good. So well, that's modern strength and conditioning, if you ask me.
Yeah. So
and that's that's been tough for coaches to evolve into because of the rule change.
Yeah, and that's part of it is now. I mean, right now the position coaches could be working with the players certain times. It could be football related activities. Now, once again, Coach Kelly, he wants them to train. Like he's like, no, we're training. I'm giving you this block, and then we'll kind of sprinkle in, like I said, football specific work.
Yeah. So
we'll kind of do our runs into their runs and kind of marry what we're doing. And then we get into spring ball. But yeah, it's all encompassing. We try to just develop the guys, and it's constant assessment, reassessment, and seeing where we're at. We have the ultimate, volume plan of the week. This week's going this one, this week's going there. But then you got to be flexible, because there's times when I'm like, we talk as a staff every day. I meet with the guys. I try to meet as soon as we can after the training session, so it's fresh in our mind. Talk about that day, talk about the next day, go from there.
And that's the evolution, I think, of collegiate strength and conditioning and football is, well, let me go back, because you were talking about the orthopedic issues, orthopedic stress that you have following the season. Unless you're there with those guys every day, you see them every day, you truly, and especially throughout the season, guys come in on Monday and you're thinking to yourself, man, how is this guy going to practice? And then, you see him get a little bit better throughout the day, and then you have a hard Tuesday practice, and then you see them walking around on Wednesday. You're like, how's this guy going to play?
Right.
And that builds up. And by the time, guys show up in January, they're still beat and banged up. And it was always tough for me to try, because as a strength coach, when you have an off-season program where so much emphasis is placed on that, then you're rushed to get the team prepared to do that instead of preparing your team. And then, preparing your team because you're there to play football. And so that's something that I've spent a great deal of time in my time away, is working out that issue, or that finding a solution to that issue. And y'all have done a great job of evolving and taking advantage of the technical and tactical work that the team is allowed to do with the position coaches.
Yep.
So that's where I want to go next. How do you guys, and when I say you guys, the football staff and the strength and conditioning staff manage it, and how involved is your staff with that? Do y'all do anything along with the technical and tactical work, or is that something that you don't have anything to do on that day?
So at this time of the year, like I said, we kind of, as we have got out of our training block and our general physical preparation for spring ball, we get into, they start getting a couple days a week on the field of, basically Indy to start. And coach is like, how much do we need? And so we'll he'll have a script, but then, he'll say, well, how much do you need? And I'll say, well, I think I should have this much to just, so we'll blend it. I mean, we'll blend
good.
it. Now, when the position coaches go, they go. I kind of, Coach Kelly and I, we talk about how much, and kind of, it's more, here's the timing of it. We talk about that. And, but listen, when they need to coach, they coach, man. I'm hands off. We can talk about total volume, things like that, and acceleration, decelerations off it, and we build. We kind of undercook, and know that we don't want to fry the guys and overcook them while we're in this phase, and then we go from there. And then obviously spring ball, they're all involved, and we'll train every other day when they're not doing on the field practice. We'll be in the weight room in some form or fashion, and figuring out what we need, and still developing. We still go pretty hard during spring ball, as far as the training sessions go. So, and then in the summer we do a similar thing, but a lot of it's player driven, and we want exposure to on the field activity, and that's part of.
Yeah.
And I track it, as far as work volume, as far as knowing that if I have to pull back on my side to get them more exposure to football, like you just said, they're here to play football. Like I love, and I'm a straight meathead, and I love the weight room, and I love the field, and I know we need certain things, but in the end, let's get better at football.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you a question. So when you're doing when they're doing the on the field work with the position coaches, and I'm sure, and this is a rhetorical question, but so you're looking, when that's over with, you're looking at the GPS report.
Oh yeah.
And do you look at the high speed distances that they're running on those days and then program in addition to that? Or are you able to take them before that position work or after that position work to get that work done? Now, you said you don't like pulling guys off to the side and have them do a fly 20.
Yeah,
but do you program along with that work? Or
Correct.
Is that something that then you take the days that you have them to address those high speed distances or the total distance, with tempos? How do you manage the high speed distance and the volume, or with GPS, with catapult, it's going to be load. Yeah. So how do you adjust the load or make up for the load? And how do you handle the high speed distances during those on the field workouts?
Yeah. So we try to keep the days that we're on the field, we try to keep on the field. The days that we're not on the field, we try to stay off the field. So once again, I'll typically lead. So, Coach Kelly will say, okay, so just give me a duration. You have 30 minutes. Is that
that's
good?
Awesome.
Say, yes, that's what I need. I need 30 minutes. I need 25 minutes. That's including preparation work.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, hey, after that, they'll be ready to go. Whatever you do with them, we're probably good. This is the duration you should probably stick to. So, I give them, we talk about together and collectively come up with a duration constraint rather than leave the doors open and see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, we try to keep the on the field stuff, and then we look at it, and then it's collective.
Yeah.
So we
that is awesome.
We live track, and then we label each drill. So exactly as the coaches label it, we have it labeled in open field on catapult. So we know that whatever your half line run, this is what it looks like from a player load standpoint. All the contacts, your one-on-one repetitions, which is typically where you do your high speed distances for some of those skill guys. This is how much they're gathering. So then, we can go from there and look at it and craft it for the next day or for the week or things like that. We kind of have an idea of what we've done in the past, what we want to do that day, and then we go from there.
Yeah. And when you do it that way, because you're labeling the periods, there's some coaches you can say, we got to pull back a little bit. And then other coaches, you can say during your individual period, you need to do more. And so that's awesome.
Coach, I make sure he knows, like, it's not all about pulling back, coach. It's not all like strength coach saying you're doing too much. Because there's days when I'm like, coach, let's go, baby. So
that's awesome. All right, last thing, because we've been rolling, man. So I could do this. Hey, this is the best thing about having a podcast, and I've said it before. But the very best thing about doing this is I get to spend an hour and a half, whatever, talking training, man. And when you're, someone like me, it's like, this is a godsend for me.
Yeah.
And I love it. So the football staff, and it's, everybody, I read the paper and, you see it on social media every day, and y'all's football staff has done a great job working the portal and filling positional needs that have been vacated, for guys going pro and guys leaving to go to the portal. So how have you had to adjust what you do in the weight room with those guys that are coming in? Because they come from different backgrounds, different training processes, different training philosophies. And in some way, they're like a early enrollee in high school, but they're physically mature, and some are more developed than others. So how have you managed that situation with the early enrollees and then the transfer portal guys?
That's a great question. And it's true, the early enrollees, they're in a foundational level of training that, when they're ready, we put them into the main fold. But the transfers, I probably treat it similar to a free agent. We bring them in, we assess, we reassess as we go, and we're constantly looking at, how they're doing from a physiological standpoint. But, a lot of it's just, hey man, have you done this before? And we're guys, like you said, from different programs that may have never done a power clean. And like I said, I'm heavily biased towards weightlifting, but I have a huge toolbox of things to do. So it's not like I'm stuck to, if a guy can't power clean, I'm going to, make them keep going. So I have the older guys, if you will, the true transfers. They're in the main group. And then it obviously positionally and as we look at where they're at, they need more force or more, things like that. Then we bucket them from there. But they're in the main, and we just coach them and put them in the main group and go. So I would assume, I've never been in the NFL, it's probably similar to a free agent where you're like, that's what's beautiful about having velocity-based training, system that we can, I can say, okay, I have no idea what your max is. You might not know how much you can squat or clean, but I want you to be at this speed because I know it's about where I want to be on the spectrum of what physical quality we're trying to train. So that's what's beautiful about having elite form and having GPS, and we try to be as objective as possible.
Well, that's great. Well, look, I could sit here forever and talk, but unfortunately our time is up. The cool thing, I was just sitting here thinking, you're 3 miles from us. We could have done this, more formal video.
We'll have to
but
get
you're
together next time.
Yeah. But, that's the unique thing about this whole situation. You're just 3 miles down the road and you could be 300 miles away. But I really appreciate you coming on today, and thanks for joining. And I think, everybody knows that I was there 22 years, but, things happen and you got to move on, when, I'm proud of the job. I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say our family are huge LSU fans. And I saw Dylan Cruz at a little sandwich shop down the road, and I shook his hand. I said, "Hey man," and I sounded like a fan and not a coach. I was like, "Hey man, hey, big season." I started putting pressure on the guy, but for the people that don't know, Dylan Cruz is one of our baseball players, going to be a first-round draft pick. Hopefully he's the top number one pick in the draft. That's what I hope, but he'll be a top pick. In fact, our baseball team is loaded this year. So it's been a blast to have you on here, man.
I appreciate it, Coach. I appreciate your mentorship and everything you've done just in my year here, and I hope to continue it. Oh,
yeah, man. Yeah. It's awesome. And so good luck this spring. Hopefully you guys stay healthy. And we're looking forward for a big year. I don't want to put any pressure on you, but I told you that pressure is real.
It's there. That's all right.
I don't want to put any pressure on you for this fall. But I'm excited about the direction that the program is going. And, there's a lot of really good people that work over there in ops, man. We could talk all day about Dougie Fresh and Lou and Chef and Mishael and Bo. I mean, shoot, man, I've known Bo forever. Bo, I think, was a GA or a first year coach when he started. So a lot of great people over there. You can follow Coach Flint on Twitter at Coach Flint and on Instagram at Coach Flint. Please, again, do me a favor and tell everybody there that I said hello. Okay.
Will do. Appreciate you.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Well, this brings us to the end of today's podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you're someone interested in doing a podcast with us, or if there's someone that you would like to recommend as a guest, please email us at podcast@themoffittmethod.fit. Again, that's podcast@themoffittmethod.fit. I said this just a minute ago, but I hope you enjoy listening to our podcast as much as I do recording them, man. This is the highlight of my week. and I love doing it. The response from our listeners has been great. And I know this one right here is going to be a great episode as well. So please share it with as many friends as you have. We need your help in expanding our reach. Please remember to subscribe and share this podcast. And we'll see you again next week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.